Well, hello and welcome. I am Jamie Valens. I am the marketing manager here at Renaissance IT Consulting. And today I'd like to take a few minutes to talk a little bit about Microsoft Bookings. Microsoft Bookings is a schedule management tool that's designed not just for individuals, but also their teams. You may notice that Microsoft Bookings looks a lot like other scheduling tools such as Calendly, Appointee, Acuity. The main difference between these tools and Microsoft Bookings is that if you have an Office 365 premium subscription, even the base one, Microsoft Bookings is already included at no additional cost. In addition to that, it plays extremely well with the other with the other Microsoft Office 365 tools within the suite. So why don't we take a look and see what I'd like to have come out today. By the end of this, it is my hope that you will have a fundamental understanding of how to build a personal bookings page, how to manage the meeting options of that bookings page, build a shared bookings page for your team, as well as customizing it, managing all the nuts and bolts of it, as well as managing the customer-facing one versus the internal teams-facing one. So, it probably would help quite a bit with a bit of context. So why don't I start by showing you what a bookings page would look like. This is my bookings page. As you can see, I have two different meeting options available, office hours and marketing brainstorm. As I toggle between the two of these, you'll notice that availability changes as I toggle from one to the other. Now, no longer will you have to play phone tag, email tag, homing pigeons, smoke signals, whatever, in order to book a meeting between two very busy professionals. Now, it's just as easy as picking a time. It's best for you. Hitting next, typing in a few notes about the meeting. And then hit book. It will think about it momentarily. Cue the Jeopardy music. And how about that? So as you can see, outside of questionable internet speed, whatever, it is just as easy as selecting a time and hitting go. So from there, let's go ahead and take a look at what it looks like to manage one of these pages. Now this is the back end. This is where all the work gets done. So before I make any changes to my bookings page, why don't I suggest turning it off? And the reason for turning off your bookings page is because I find I get peace of mind knowing that while my bookings page is offline, I'm not going to lose any meetings that are booked while I'm making changes. You know, there's nothing worse than having something overlooked because somebody slid under the wire and booked a meeting when you were making changes. Now, while the page in and of itself is offline, bringing it back up is just as easy as hitting publish. And we're back online. So I'm going to turn it off right now. Now this is where I can customize my bookings page. Now, I can't necessarily select a fully customized image, but you do get access to some pretty colorful options here. We're in text, so let's go with that. Zeros and ones, right? How creative. And if you see here, I have a 30-minute office hour meeting and I have a 30-minute marketing brainstorm meeting. So why don't I go ahead and change this? And instead of it being a 30-minute meeting, let's make it a 45-minute meeting. Now, let's take a look here. To create a new meeting, or to create a new meeting category or option, As you can see, there's a plus sign right next to public on the right-hand side, and another one next to private, and we'll get into private here in just a few minutes. But let's go ahead and delete this so that we can just make it work. So in order to make a new meeting type, you just hit the plus sign like this. Put in what you'd like to make that meeting title. And I'm going to go ahead and make it purple. And the reason why I make it purple is so when it pops up on my Outlook calendar, I don't necessarily need to look at the title to know that it's a marketing brainstorm meeting. So even if I'm flying by the seat of my pants that day, it's just as easy as a quick glance and I know what headspace I need to be in as I'm coming into the next meeting. So now here I would add a description. And as you can see, it automatically defaults to a Teams meeting because remember I said that it plays very well within its own ecosystem. That doesn't mean that you're stuck with Teams. It just means it defaults it to make it super easy. However, putting in a link for a different meeting service, if you will, that works for everybody is just as easy as putting the link right here in this location. You can also select where this meeting takes place if it happens to be in person. And it will actually look up the specific, it will actually map it for you based on the address. So let's go ahead and make this a 45-minute meeting. And this is a public meeting. So it will just appear on my bookings page. Except we're going to have a little bit of fun and we're going to customize a little extra today. So with this particular meeting, I'm going to use custom availability. And the reason why is because there's nothing that dampens my creative flow than, as silly as it sounds, a weekend. So I find that marketing brainstorm meetings are not very productive if they take place on Friday. You may have all the best ideas in the world, but if you're off the next day and you have something crazy like a repair or something fun like a birthday party or a trip, chances are pretty good you're going to forget everything you talked about come Monday. So I find that marketing brainstorm meetings are best held Monday through Thursday. So I'm going to make it that Friday is completely off the table. It won't even appear in my calendar. So then I'm going to go ahead and look at these advanced options. Now this is where you can really have a lot of fun. And what I mean by fun is in make things as easy as possible because that's fun, right? So the first option is buffer time before your meeting. Let's say that you have a specific meeting type that requires a little bit of prep, research, you got to pull down some figures. Having buffer time is really going to help out. So let's pretend I have that sort of a thing going on with this meeting, that I have to pull a report or maybe collect some figures. So let's go ahead and give myself 30 minutes of buffer time before that meeting. And then that way, if the last meeting ran over, I have a little bit of room to play with in order to prep. Now, let's say that these meetings like to run over sometimes. Well, I'd rather have the meeting be 45 minutes. I know that oftentimes it can run closer to an hour. So why don't I go ahead and set this up for 15-minute buffer time. So if it runs over, it's really not gonna bump up next to the next meeting or overlap with the next meeting. Now, there's some sales philosophies that state that you should make it 5-minute intervals so people remember the time of your appointment. But that just seems like crazy talk to me. So I like to make my meeting intervals 30 minutes. I like to have things on the top of the hour and half past. Don't know what it is, it's just a personal preference. Now, when it comes down to marketing brainstorm meetings, I may not want an hour lead time, but I think at least 8 hours is good. And when it comes down, and what that does is that makes it that you cannot book any sooner than 8 hours before you basically, the first meeting available is going to be 8 hours from the time you click the link and select. So you won't see anything that's less than 8 hours away. So maximum lead time, that is basically saying, how far in advance do you want to book these meetings? Now, the world of marketing moves just as fast as everything marketing does. So having this meeting, having the lead time be no more than 7 days is a really great option for this kind of a meeting. Now, what's nice about this is based on the amount, based on your particular meeting type, you can customize these options to suit you and your schedule. That's ultimately what I'm hoping to show here with these minute details, with the minutia. So, now, here we go. Now you can see my bookings page for office hours versus marketing brainstorm. No Fridays are available. It only shows availability Monday through Thursday, no more than 7 days in advance. So, now, let's give this a bit more of a twist. Let's go ahead and take a look at what happens when I hit private. So I'm going to make this meeting now private. As you can see, now that it's private, so now that I've made that private, we're going to go ahead and share this link, take a look. And as you can see, office hours is the only one that's available. Marketing brainstorm has vanished, just as easy as that. So let's take a second and step back to my bookings page. And this time, how do you go ahead and make a meeting? How do you access a meeting that's private? Let's go ahead and make this one public just to make it easy. But as you can see, this marketing strategy and execution meeting is private. And here's how it works. You could give the link you could give a non-expiring link to the meeting participant for ongoing booking, or you can create a single use link. Now, the single use link doesn't mean that when you type it in and hit enter, it immediately becomes invalid. It isn't until a meeting is booked on that link. So don't be afraid to test the link and make sure it works before sending it. So let's go ahead and take a look at copying. We're just going to copy the standard link. So let's say that I have an ongoing meeting with somebody else in my department that I do marketing strategy with every week. So this person is going to have this link. Now, I'm going to hit this, and as you can see, this particular meeting is the only one that shows up. The other two no longer appear. And what this is this only shows availability for this type of meeting, which the same goes for the brainstorm meeting, where Monday through Thursday is the absolute best times to do this. Fridays, not so much. So, as you can see, my availability is here, and they can access it over and over again. Now, let's go ahead and flip back here. And we're going to share a single use link. Now, this is a really great link to use for vendors. Maybe you got that salesperson that keeps calling you, that you don't want to give them full access to your calendar, but they've interested you enough to get a little bit of your time. So you may give them a single use link. As you can see, I can use it, I can close it and reuse it again, and I can still access it until I book something. Once I book something, let's see if I can do this. So we're gonna book. Pretty easy. Oh, there we go. Okay. I thought maybe it was gonna prompt me for a code. Suspicious. That I'm scheduling a meeting with myself for myself. Okay. So, as you can see now, I'm going to redo this link. And as you can see, the booking link is no longer valid. So once the meeting is scheduled, the link expires. So let's move on to the Teams page. This is what the Teams page would look like. As you can see, there's different services, except this time you can see multiple staff. Everything's grayed out until you make a selection. So let's go ahead and toggle CRM training. So looking at CRM training, as you can see, Myself, Mike, and Donnie are available. They're listed, if you will. Whereas new hire onboarding, it's just me and Mike. Now, Donnie's no longer an option because that's not a service, quote unquote, that he provides. Whereas IT support, Mike and myself are listed as the sample in this. Of course, we have more text than that, so don't panic, I promise. But for the sake of building this out and creating as little chaos as possible, we only included folks that were in this, that were aware of the webinar before we set this up, so we didn't have any confusion within our text. So with that in mind, let's take a look here at the back end, because management, well, before I do, all you got to do now is pick your time, put in your name, email, address, phone number, and the nature of your issue. Since this is IT support, it's always good to explain your issue, as we've mentioned in our technology tidbit. It's always a good idea to explain your issue in as much detail as possible. So this little section here, I would hope would be your friend. However, let's take a look at the back end, shall we? So toggling this, as you can see, shared bookings pages are right here. Now, this is the back end. As you can see, there's a few features that are included here on the left-hand side. You can see the calendar, you can see the booking page, you can see, as you can see, the calendar, you'll find booking page, customers, staff, services, and business information. We're going to play here a little bit and break it all down. So the first part that I'm going to explain is the calendar view. As you can see here, it shows the staff that are added to the booking for the webinar, for the sake of the webinar, as Donnie, myself, Kirk, and Mike. As you can see, busy is shown, availability is also shown. This allows you, and if you look here where it says no staff, this section right here is where you'll see if somebody booked something with one of your employees, and for some reason they had to get shuffled off, this makes it that nobody gets dropped and forgotten about. So keeping an eye on this no staff section is the absolute best way to ensure that nobody is left behind if the unexpected occurs. So this is probably one of the most important pieces of the tool, is the no staff section, because this allows you to schedule it with somebody who has availability if somebody does fall through the cracks before the client is given a bad impression. Nobody wants that. So moving right along, the booking page. This is where you can customize all of the nuts and bolts of the bookings page for your team. So the options that you have here is availability. First and foremost, self-service is key. Do you want to offer self-service where folks on the internet can just book with you? Or do you want it not to be available? Do you want it to be available to people in your organization or anybody? The possibilities are literally endless. So let's look at this. When I look at page access control, this is where I can toggle visibility and security. So the first part is search engine indexing. This is going to allow your bookings page to be found by search engines. So if you want the more the merrier, you might want to turn off this check mark and make it available for search engines to index. I'm going to turn it off since it is a webinar and it's just a sample, so we don't want anybody getting crazy and booking stuff here after this is all over. So the second option is to create a one-time password to create a booking. So let's say that you only want internal employees to make the booking, but they don't necessarily need to be logged into your software or to your domain to do it. You can leave it available to anyone and then require a one-time password, just like that. Once they use the password, they create the booking, and voila, even outside of the domain. So let's move to the next one. This is where California Consumer Protections Privacy takes effect. So you can actually post a link to your privacy policy right here. And then the default scheduling policy. This is where you will see lead time for the defaults. This is where you manage all of the company defaults. So remember how we made the personal bookings page, how it had office availability versus custom availability. This is where the general availability for your team is structured, so that if you want to fall outside of this, this is when the customization would really kind of fall into place and allow you to set parameters outside of these. But in this case, time increments 30 minutes, minimum lead time 1 hour. Obviously, IT support can't wait very long, so you want to make sure that it's available pretty quickly. Maximum lead time 30 days. I'm just going to leave this just the way it is, default, because we have more control on the macro in order to break it down and make it work for what we need it to work for. Whether it's IT support, CRM training, new hire, personal, that's where we can really kind of define that. So we'll just leave this toggled the way it is. Now, when a booking is created, you'll get an email or you won't. Whether or not it sends a meeting invite, which of course I can't imagine why you wouldn't hit the check mark on this, but I'm sure somebody will email me and tell me a circumstance for which it may not be available, or they may not need it, but feel free. I love emails and commentary. And then staff control. Allow folks to choose the person that they have for their booking. So let's say somebody works with a specific tech all the time, and they love this tech. Well, it gives them the ability to book specifically with that tech instead of one they don't know. Now, granted, they may wait a little bit longer for it, but the option and choice is made available to them, which choice is everything for customer satisfaction. So this is your general availability, your office hours. Some places aren't even open on Mondays, but they have short hours on Saturdays. Now, let's take a look. So let's say that you have a vacation where the entire team goes to Cancun. How fun would that be? You can actually set availability for a specific date range when your team's going to be away from the office and all working, all together as a company, where you can set that limited availability for this specific date range. Right there. So, we're not going to do this. So let's go ahead and take a look at the customization option. So you can go with the new, or you can go with classic. I personally like new. Minimalist is key. While you cannot, again, use a custom image for your banner, you can select your business logo. Now, I personally thought that the R, the Renaissance R, looks amazing in this spot. This is where I put it. I use our square logo here. And as you can see, we have our custom hex code for our brand right there, so that your clients only see the color that you want them to see that fits your brand and its guidelines. And then your region and time zone settings. Now, we're all going to be in Pacific time, so it will always show your time slots in Pacific time. So now we've pretty much did that. Discard machines. So this is where you'll have your customers. Now we put sample customers in here for the sake of booking meetings for the webinar. So you can actually see information about those individuals. Now, let's go ahead and look at the staff. This is where you can select what staff are assigned the bookings page. Now, we have many people that work within the company, but for the sake of this webinar, we only have myself, Donnie, Kirk, and Mike participating in this. We don't have the whole team. Like I said, that would be chaos. So you can actually, adding a staff member is just as easy as typing their name. Just as easy as that. So there you go. That's how I can pull somebody in that easy. But we're not going to do that, so we're going to go back. Discard. Okay. Now, You can also assign services to that staff. So for the sake of conversation, let's take a look here. As you can see, I'm registered for CRM, new hire, and IT support. But Donnie is only available for CRM. But let's say I want to add this service. So what we're going to do is we're going to add this, hit edit. No, that's not it. Okay, so let's go ahead and hit this. Nope, that's not it. Okay. So you can make changes to the services over here. Now, we're going to pretend that never happened, okay? So it'll show their contact information, their availability, as well as the services. Now, let's say you want to add a service. So in this case, let's say I want to add Donnie to IT support, but I want to take Mike off. So let's go ahead and hit assign staff. I'm going to toggle Mike off, add Donnie, hit save changes, and guess what? Mike is no longer available for IT support, but Donnie now is. So the service details. This is where you can actually put like pricing. So like hairdressers can put in service prices and things like that so that the client always has a good idea of what things will cost. No surprises. Calendar and availability, as well as the staff assigned. There's a bit of redundancy when you're looking at this information, but that's not always a bad thing. So let's take a look at the business information. This is where you can add your privacy policy, which we have on our website. I would just copy the link from there and place it here. The nuts and bolts, if you change locations, whatever the case may be. And simple, easy breezy, change the logo. You can set your business hours. Everything is very easy to manage from one spot. And that pretty much concludes the bookings from the team element, from the team page. So now, I'm going to take a look at this real quick. And there it is, except now, IT support, it's just myself and Donnie. Mike is no longer listed. So, this pretty much concludes the content that I felt that I wanted to cover here today. I hope that everybody took. This pretty much concludes the topics that I wanted to cover regarding Microsoft bookings. I certainly hope that you found this tool to be just as helpful as some of the other ones out there on the market. My goal is to make it that you're not paying twice for the same functionality. If you already have Microsoft Office 365, there are so many different apps that Microsoft 365 includes within its base plan that our goal is to cover each and every one of those as we move through these webinars. And I hope that you found our presentation of bookings to be informative, helpful, and if you have any questions, right here is my contact information. Again, I'm Jamie Valens. I'm the marketing manager here at Renaissance IT Consulting. You can reach me via email or by phone. If you have any questions, maybe some feedback, if you have a topic you'd like me to cover in future webinars, love to hear from you. So give me a buzz, drop me a line, whatever works best for you. But it's been a real pleasure working with you today. I hope you have a lovely day, and thank you. See you next time.